Pai Tee Kong is a celebration of the Jade Emperor's birthday. Significantly, this falls on the 9th day of the Chinese Lunar New Year, a date so momentous for the Hokkien Chinese that they claim it as the proper start to their new year. Offerings of food and incense are laid out on a makeshift altar made up of 2 tiers of red benches, the lower for roasted meats, while the upper level, symbolizing the elevated status of heaven, consists of vegetarian dishes to be consumed by the deity also known as the God of Heaven. Pai Tee Kong is Hokkien for worshipping the God of Heaven. Additionally, 2 stalks of sugarcane are tied to each end of the altar. Hokkien Chinese believe this was the day that the Jade Emperor saved their descendants from death in the Fujian province of China. Located along the coast of the South China Sea, their villages were subject to regular attacks by pirates back in the 16th century. In one particularly vicious raid, the villagers were forced to flee into the sugarcane forests, where they waited and prayed for God's help to save them. When it was finally safe to leave, the villagers realized it coincided with the birthday of the Jade Emperor, and so the legend goes. Variations of this folklore exist, though curiously enough, nothing has been transcribed. Rather, the story is retold alongside the perennial observance of Pai Tee Kong. Here in Malaysia, this is especially evident in areas like Klang, Alor Setar, and Penang, where large settlements of Hokkien Chinese are traditionally situated. Noisy firecrackers set off the celebrations, at midnight no less, followed by prayers and the burning of piles of gold paper folded to look like ingots. So prevalent are the festivities in Alor Setar, for example, that children skip class the following morning, with some schools declaring it an unofficial holiday. At the center of this celebration is a mystery. Who saved the villagers all those years ago in the sugarcane forests of Fujian? Tradition states it was the Jade Emperor. Yet the villagers themselves weren't quite sure. They worked it out based on the date of their salvation, coinciding with the Jade Emperor's birthday, and their answered prayers attributed to the God of Heaven, or the God who is up there. Furthermore, unlike altars at Taoist temples, which prominently feature idols, the makeshift altar set up for Pai Tee Kong is conspicuously bare. There is no statue to represent the God of Heaven. Instead, the altar itself, with its tiers of benches symbolizing heaven, flanked by the 2 poles of sugarcane, memorializes an act of salvation that came from above. I suggest that this is a profoundly significant detail. God in this instance is the one who has acted to save, and as such is the one deserving of our worship. In other words, the theological framework underpinning the practice of Pai Tee Kong is an experiential knowledge of God's salvation. That, in turn, informs our responsive acts of devotion. Outside of Pai Tee Kong, the Jade Emperor himself stands as a popular figure within wider Chinese mythology. His exploits are well attested in Taoist scriptures, such as the collected scriptures on the fundamental deeds of the lofty Jade Emperor, Gaoshang Yu Wang Hong Ben Ding. Legendary Hong Kong actor Chow Yun-fat played the Jade Emperor in the 2014 film Monkey King, also starring Donnie Yen, though sadly, the movie flopped with a 26% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Considered by many as the most powerful ruler in heaven, the Jade Emperor ranks just below the 3 pure ones. Sanqing, the Taoist equivalent of the Trinity. Due to their loftiness, the 3 pure ones are beyond the reach of mere mortals. Hence, most prayers are redirected to the Jade Emperor, who acts as a sort of bureaucratic administrator over heavenly and earthly affairs. What is perhaps attractive about this mythical figure is how legend tells us the Jade Emperor was once himself human. He was born a prince but spent his youth helping the poor. As an earthly ruler, he ushered in a period of peace and prosperity for his kingdom, after which he renounced the throne to develop his spiritual conformity to the Way, or Tao. It only takes 227 million years for him to achieve what is known as golden immortality, and a mere 100 million more to ascend to his current rank of Jade Emperor, ruler over the entire universe and sovereign over all deities, ghosts, spirits, and humans everywhere. What a Kiasu overachiever! Taoism teaches the way towards self-fulfillment. It involves spiritually conforming oneself to an ultimate reality known as the Way or Tao. As such, the Jade Emperor stands as the poster child for Taoism, displaying the fruits of having spent aeons cultivating this process. That is important because even though he is regarded as a god, even the ultimate god of heaven, or Tee Kong, by Hokkien devotees, Taoism itself does not advocate this. We are not mortals in need of rescue by a benevolent higher being. Salvation, if we can put it that way, is an internal process. Each of us is personally responsible for pursuing ourselves. Having said that, I doubt this makes much difference to the widespread worship of the multiplicity of deities within the Taoist pantheon practiced across Southeast Asia. In the special case of Pai Tee Kong, it would appear that in the absence of a god they could worship or ascribe thanks to for their salvation, what my Hokkien ancestors did instead was to offer up worship to an unknown god, the god of heaven, Tee Kong. For as I passed along and observed the objects of your worship, I found also an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God. What therefore you worship as unknown, this I proclaim to you, the God who made the world and everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth. The Apostle Paul was speaking to a room full of idol worshippers. Athens 2,000 years ago was a city awash in 30,000 statues of gods and deities. Yet Paul found one to an unknown God. And that was enough. Enough for him to tell them the gospel. Enough for him to tell them about Jesus.